We are a week into Matt Campbell's time at Penn State. A perfect time to deliver some snap judgments and make wild statements about what is the future of the program, which is, of course, what... we're not doing that today on this show because we've got too many responsible adults in the room, including Nate Bauer, reporter for Blue White Illustrated, who's been covering all of the coaching decisions that have been in the news over the last 7 to 8 days. Nate, welcome to the show. Yep. How's your holiday shopping going amidst all of this? Because, you know, like, we are also human beings who have families who are going to be very disappointed in us. If I'm being honest on my end, like, don't know if I'm nailing it this week.
Yeah. My wife does most of the shopping for, like, the you know, obviously the kids.
I don't care. I don't care about them.
Yeah.
It's the adults that, like, the kids will get their toys, and I'm not surprised, but, you know, Santa will take care of that. It's the adults in your life I'm worried about with you, like, the wife and the family,
I don't,
parents.
Yeah, there's this balance between, hey, we can all kind of buy our own stuff at this point, right? And but I also don't want to be a Scrooge. I
firmly disagree. I believe that there are only a few times in your adult life that you get to be surprised like you are a child, and your birthday and Christmas are the two times. So, like, for me, I love surprises. I love gift giving, and I do believe. What do you mean? That's not what this is. It's not. I mean, not in my circle. It's, hey, what do you want? Like, what do you want? Just like, send me a link to what you want, and then they choose among the things, and then one of those things will be given. Fair enough.
Which is, it's nice. It's nice. Look, not to be sentimental, but I value being around people that I like a lot, and, you know, some would argue love. And so, like, to me, that takes considerable precedence over Pro V1 golf balls, which are great. I love Pro V1 golf balls. But, you know, it's not necessary at this point. So our booing sound effect got deleted in the transition over, or else I would have hit you with a booing sound effect. Let me see. Is it over here? Nope. No, you can just actually do it. You can just boo me. Like, that's okay. I won't be offended.
It's different. You need the chorus of people agreeing as opposed to one individual person.
I'm looking at the chat right now, and there are people behind me on this. Like, I feel like I've got an army here. It's emboldening me. I'm ready to go.
Well, guess what? I push all the buttons, so we're moving on. Let's talk about Penn State staff decisions. And yes, for the chat, Fitz will be showing up a little bit later. He's got a couple things he's attending to right now. So we're right in Nate's wheelhouse, which is the information gathering of the staff decisions over the last week or so, which is where we started the conversation today. And the news, maybe not as prolific as people may have expected in terms of official announcements. So where we are right now, 3 Iowa State coaches have transferred over to Penn State officially. Taylor Mauser is the offensive coordinator, and tight ends coach. Ryan Clanton is the offensive line coach, and Dion Broomfield is the secondary coach with a fluid title, not DB, not corner, not safety, secondary coach. So let's just start there and discuss what you think of these moves, specifically with Mauser. Have we got a chance to talk about this on the show? I don't think we've got a chance to talk about this yet.
Yeah, we have not. I do think, and this is kind of my baseline, and I get the sense that people are uncomfortable with it. But in the official press release that Penn State sent out on Friday-ish afternoon, it had a tagline, something to the effect of titles subject to change. Yeah. And to me, that immediately, Penn State hasn't done this in a while, right? James Franklin did not do this in a while. But there was a time, right? David Corley, who was the running backs coach and then became because they named him the running backs coach, it became weird when he had to become the receivers coach. And so there are these 3 official, Terry Smith's role, right? There is,
right.
It's going to he's going to be on staff, in what capacity, I think that there is a purposeful wiggle room that is being created, so that Matt Campbell can kind of concoct, the best arrangement of personnel that he feels is possible.
Is Terry Smith going to be a position coach? It's just interesting to the way that this is working out, and to just round out the announcements that we've had. Terry Smith obviously was the very first coach that he's going to be retained on the staff, and then Trace McSorley, Pete Nakos reported he's going to be retained as well, although not necessarily given a role just yet. So we've got 5 coaches. Expected to. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. It's very important. All the words are very important. Although I did see him at the store buying supplies the other day, so I think he's sticking around. I didn't bother him. I didn't want to. I was going to say hi, but he was checking out. So
you should have.
I know. It's my job now to bother him. But I was just I was buying stuff. He was buying stuff. All I'm saying is expected to, with a strong lean, because I think just generally his playing style meshes very well with what Matt Campbell has been recruiting over the years at Iowa State. And I understand personality, fit, and all these things, competency are all important. But when we talk about there is a fit here between Trace McSorley and Matt Campbell's offensive philosophy at quarterback. So anyway, those are the 5 guys we have here so far that have been announced or expected to be retained. So when it comes to 5 out of 10, and I know that, again, Terry and Trace may not even be on-field coaches, are you surprised 8 days in there aren't more names that have been announced officially?
No, because there is a process to these things, and until things are signed, the DocuSign, right? I mean, it's just,
here we are again.
Yeah,
we are.
We're back. So yeah, things need to be official, because until it's official, it's not official. And look, I know it's a memory that people Penn State fans would rather forget, I think. But sometimes you really, really, really think something's going to happen one way because people say that it's going to happen one way, and then they change their mind, and and then that leaves you, so you just can't. You can't do it until it's done. And right now, a lot of these things are not done. And until they are, Penn State's not gonna, make those formal introductions.
But to read between the lines of Nate Bauer, there are things behind the scenes that you think there's more going on than what's been officially announced.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I will say, I think that, it's a lot. It's a lot when you first get into that seat of getting a lay of the land and figuring out what the landscape is, right? Who are the guys that have an interest in sticking around? Yeah. What are they asking for to stick around? What are their other options? Who do you want? Who do you feel strongly about? I mean, I do think that the offensive coordinator that Campbell is bringing from Iowa State is somebody that he feels strongly about, right? And I'm not going to say that it's political. It's not, but there's some horse trading, right? And so if you've got this political capital at the beginning of your career, maybe you have an understanding that you need to upgrade at certain position coaches, right? That there are certain things that are not going to translate from Iowa State to Penn State, and you need to be cognizant of that and less loyal maybe than you've been, right? So you have to keep that in mind, but also there are some non-negotiables and things that you think to yourself, hey, this is a guy that was responsible for great success, and
Yeah.
you have all the confidence in the world that can continue at Penn State. So that's just, to me, that's what Matt Campbell is figuring out right now with Pat Kraft and Pat's staff is, hey, how do all these pieces fit? How do they get arranged? I mean, very early on, and I do think that this is worth talking about. It's not like there wasn't an option to keep Jim Knowles, right?
Right. There's almost been as much news of coaches not being retained. That was the main thing that we got, was coaches not being retained. Andy Kotelnicki not being retained, and Jim Knowles not being retained. And so, like, there has been this outgoing, but not much of an incoming at this point, especially at those coordinator positions. Taylor Mauser, we did find out, but the defense coordinator position, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but this is a big question. Who is going to be the defensive coordinator? That feels like position coaches is one thing, right? And those are important, and they are the lifeblood of the coaching. But the coordinator kind of sets the tone for what we want and how we want to do it, which then informs what those coaches are going to do underneath him. And so that, to me, is the biggest puzzle piece missing. And so I guess what are your thoughts about that at this point?
About hiring a defensive coordinator? I think he gets the opportunity to shop a little bit. Speaking of Christmas, the gift card doesn't have a balance on it. It's unlimited, right? So there's the opportunity to go out, see who you mesh with and who fits with you. And, and if that's a possibility to bring somebody in, then you have that. I do think that it's relevant to bring up John Heacock, who was his defensive coordinator, his longtime defensive coordinator, and he's been with Matt Campbell for years. Pete Nakos reported honestly, I think before, if my timing recollection is correct, he announced him as going to be part of the staff, but in an undetermined role for Matt Campbell at Penn State. Mm-hmm. That hasn't shaken itself out. Right?
Yeah.
Like there is no formality to that. So maybe a not bad backup plan when the guy that you're comfortable with and the guy that you spend a lot of time with has an opportunity to stay in that role, but also maybe an acknowledgement. Maybe you can go out and get somebody a little splashier.
Yeah. Splashier. Okay. I don't know how to address that particular word, because I do think it is important.
No, reject it, T-Frank. Just do it.
Competent is the word, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you should like. Splash and name recognition is great when it is because of competency and it is because of effectiveness and fit and all those things. I don't want to pendulum swing so far the other way because of what happened to Penn State's coaching roster last year, which was exceptionally good. Like, they were good. The guys that left here didn't go and become the wide receivers coach at Army. You got Jim Knowles at Tennessee, Stan Drayton at South Carolina. These are not chump schools. Mm-hmm. And so there is a it's too bad it didn't work out for Penn State with what was a very strong coaching staff last year. However, I think it is also very fair to point out the inconsistencies with what was told and what was done. What was said was that Jim Knowles was going to integrate into Penn State and they were going to streamline the defense so that it would be a fast defense to begin the year, and it wasn't. And so, Jim Knowles was a great hire at the time. And I think in the long term, it could have worked out, but it didn't. And so let's learn the right right lessons from those mistakes as a group. And so there's a fair conversation to say, is John Heacock the best coach for this job and what Matt Campbell wants? Because he knows Matt Campbell, he knows what he wants to do on defense, and the ability for them to mesh with one singular mind, everyone pulling the rope in the same direction. And can you find somebody to do that who maybe has a better resume and has had success at this level, so there's less projection? Because the last time he ran a defense that wasn't a Big 12 defense was at Toledo. And so, to me, splash is less important, but it is also a factor here. So I guess I'm uncomfortable with the word, but I do agree that there is an opportunity for Matt Campbell to make some choices here, even at position coaches. Like, position coaches are also important in this, but what is the value you're placing? What is it that you're searching for? And I'm a little concerned that splash has been the plan and not competency. So that's, just in a broad sense, not on any one individual in the Penn State community of decision makers, but just generally over the last 12 to 13 months.
Yeah, I do think that, and this is kind of the conversation that's happening behind the scenes, is there was a confidence that Jim Knowles would have gotten there, but also that there was a lot of cognitive dissonance, right? For everybody. James Franklin in insisting on it, everybody agreeing with that plan, right? You went out and you finally caught the white whale, but did so in an environment and in a moment where it wasn't a build for Penn State football. This team was not the trajectory, not working toward it. If Jim Knowles comes in after the semifinal run last year and everybody, and I've mentioned this a few times, but if everybody had left, Nittany and Zane and Zaki, if all those guys had left and Penn State's defense was the defense that it was this season and Jim Knowles came in, there are no national championship expectations. There are, right? It is very simply hey, here's Tony Rojas. You get to work with him as a junior and build toward a senior year. Amari Campbell, in an alternate universe, Max Granville not getting hurt, right? Kamaju, you name it, right? All of these players who under that senior class had multiple years of eligibility that could have progressed toward those goals, like may have worked, right? May have been something that had panned out, but it was a very, very real miscalculation, right? To try to fit that into not Penn State football, but to the moment of Penn State football, right? To this crossroads that the program was in, and it didn't work. So now it's a question of, to me, can
I just jump in with this as well? And this is retroactively, because now that we have all the information, I think it's funny the narratives that are given. And I'm just going to say this again. I've said it a bunch of times on the show. James Franklin didn't meddle enough is what I learned from 2025 is that James Franklin did not step in at certain points and say, wait, you're going to ask Zane Durant to take on double teams? No, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. You're going to have Trevor Pena be our jet sweep guy, and you're going to have Drew Aller running the football as an A-gap runner? No, we're not doing that. And so you saw what Terry Smith did when he said, no, we're not doing that. We're going to put the Prowler package in, and we're going to throw play action. We're going to run the ball. We're going to eliminate shifts and motions that don't help the offensive line, and we are going to simplify and brutalize the offense, make it nasty and physical and aggressive. And they did that, and they found a formula for success. James Franklin let the coordinators coordinate to, I think, his own destruction. And so we again learn the right lessons from what we just learned. To me, that is if you want to say, if you're a James Franklin detractor, and this is my biggest takeaway, is that those were the moments where he needed to do something and did not do something as the head coach. So again, we need to learn those lessons about how Matt Campbell is going to interject into things and learn that as we go forward. I'm sorry, it was a total tangent. There was something I was going to parlay it into, totally forgot. So save me here, Nate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the players as well, right? Is Franklin had created and developed the program to a point where, I mean, he called himself a micromanager in the past, right?
Right.
But micromanaging was a necessity based on his comfort level with the pieces that he had in the program. And well, in those cases, discomfort, right? Feeling that he needed to be more involved in certain things. And then this year came around, and this is, I think, a fair 50,000 foot view of this is that he backed off all those things. Right. The coordinators were hired specifically because they could do the job. The position coaches could do the job. And then very, very, very importantly, the players could be trusted to lead themselves, that they had built up that cachet of goodwill and reliability through their careers, that it could be more of a hands-off approach. I mean, coaches say all the time that, the best leadership is player-led leadership. They hold each other accountable, all of those things. I think that it is a very fair critique to say that as things started to unwind, those things did not happen.
So I guess I don't want to belabor this because we got to get to a bunch of other stuff. But to me, the issue is these are the big picture. Your hand is on the wheel. You are steering the ship. You are course navigating. And in the summer, when these things are happening, I don't know how you feel. We talked about some of these things during the summer of like some of the offensive game plans that I was like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know about that. When we talk about a bunch of guys that are good with yak, and it's like, yes, the stats are there, but is the talent, like, is the actual ability there? And to me, it's not in the season. It's either in camp or in the summer, where if you're the head coach, like you're charting the course for the coordinators. At least that would be my interpretation of what the head coach is. You are making, as a CEO, as an executive, your job is not to micromanage, but to set the big picture. And to, like, I guess I'm micromanaging the point here.
But they did.
And saying, like, but what do you mean? What do you mean they did?
Okay, so again, at the beginning of the season, there was an intent for this team. And, I mean, you can read it. It's not really even reading between the lines. It was right out in front of everybody in the conversations that were had over the summer, the coordinator interviews that I did, the things that James Franklin said. They were trying to win a national championship. That's it. Like the 1-0 thing went away because the whole purpose was, hey, you have to be prepared to beat teams that can beat you in multiple different ways. So rather than fixating on what is the best thing that Penn State does and just leaning into it and pushing all those chips in on this is the way, Penn State tried to be good, great, excellent at everything.
Have an answer for whatever situation.
Correct. And very much got lost in the.
This is why I hate arguing with you, is because, like, okay, I totally agree with that. Like, that is a reasonable position to want to have. And so
my wife hates arguing with me too.
Here we go again. But you're one of the few worthy opponents. My wife just says mean things, and then the conversation is over. So that's how it goes over here.
Sean Fitz is here.
Sean Fitz is here. Hey, Fitz, happy holidays.
My wife. So I'm not the one to turn to for this one.
So tell us about beer then. I'm going to just throw you in the deep end and tell me about Antifragile Brewing Company. How about that?
Dumping me right into it. Hey, I'd rather be dumped into beer than anything else right now. Antifragile Brewing Company, of course, if you're a follower of the show, you know that we are a follower of Antifragile Brewing, downtown East Colorway State College. It's actually the perfect time of year to hit Antifragile. The crowds are a little bit lower. The vibes are great. They're very festive down there, as always. If you go in, they've got big screens playing, I think, the Yule Log, and it's very comfy, very cozy. And we surround ourselves with great people here at Blue White Illustrated, so we're going to do the same when we go out. at Antifragile Brewing. Check out their beer, the best beer in State College. Check out their mixed drinks. They just brought back the Pigeon Lady, which is my wife's favorite mixed drink down there. Not really completely sure what's made up of it, and I spoke too soon here, but my wife loves it, so that's a ringing endorsement. And you just go back a minute ago, she wins every argument, so she wins everything, right? So yeah, get down there. You also try the kombucha, the cheesesteaks, anything that you would want in terms of a social outing. It's a wonderful place, run by people that we trust, and run by people that appreciate what we do as well. So it's a great spot for Penn State fans if you're in the area for the holiday. If you're just out and about on a Saturday afternoon, that's kind of become my favorite, right? Is the afternoon hang. I don't go out at night anymore with the kids and stuff like that. So the afternoon hang at Antifragile. I know Nate is a big fan of it.
I was there. You were not on Saturday. I
went. Yeah, I had a few things, but that's neither here nor there.
More important than beer.
Not more important than beer. It's family, but not more important than beer. But I'm very sorry I missed it. The next one we'll have to get there, and we'll have to get there. You went after the Penn State basketball game, right?
I sure did.
Yeah, a lot of Penn State basketball fans. Everybody at the BJC went right over to Antifragile and actually nearly filled the place.
May I interject? T. Frank, sponsor of Defensive Player of the Game. Our friend,
you saw Matt
in the house. We connected. It was great. It was really nice meeting.
Awesome. Yeah, he's a great guy. I enjoy hanging out with and talking to him. I do want to get back to the conversation about the relevant topics today, which is, and we did the thing. So this is the beautiful thing is, like, over the last 2 months, there has been the conversation about what's going on with Penn State football, right? Okay, so like here's the day-to-day stuff. But then there's always a side conversation of people bickering about James Franklin. And so we just did that on air. We mirrored the chat, which has been doing that every single show for the past 3 months of like, the topics of the day, and then people just arguing about whether James Franklin was good at Penn State or not. So we just, we did a small version of that here on the show. But there are other coaches that from his former staff that may or may not stay. Two key defensive conversations, Deion Barnes and Dan Connor. Neither have been announced. And Nate, I just want to get you to give me some insight into the situation, what you think might be going on there, what is going on there, how it might play out. What do you think about those two key guys that we have a feeling want to stay and the situations surrounding that?
Yeah, I think Matt Campbell wants them to stay. I think it's simply a matter of, working out the details on that, right? This was kind of the case before Ty Howell went to Virginia Tech. There are certain opportunities that you can't pass up. And so if there are other options out there for those guys that they have to weigh, that becomes a factor. Because you can want to stay at Penn State and feel very good about that and have the reciprocation of Matt Campbell wanting you to stay. Like those, that's great, but you still have decisions to make, and then the details, right? Is what's it cost? What are you getting for this loyalty, right? I mean, I think all of those things come into play in situations like this. But I reported on Friday. The expectation internally is that they will stay on Penn State staff. And if they do, if that DocuSign gets in, then, that's a big win, I think, for Penn State and for Matt Campbell to have not only, their youth and relative expertise as assistant coaches, but certainly the recruiting chops and, their familiarity with the institution. Right. I think that James Franklin demonstrated through his tenure what the value is to Penn State's success of having Penn Staters in certain seat, right? That was not a talking point at the beginning of his tenure. That became a massive talking point at the end of his tenure when it was, Fitz, you probably know them, 18, 20, 31 former Penn Staters, right? Between the coaching staff and support staff and, just the people that populate the building.
Yeah, that was a bridge, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that was just kind of the olive branch there. And then all of a sudden, oh, these guys are pretty good. And I mean, it's always been a Letterman's program. Like even in the Paterno years, he tried to make it a Letterman's program, even though he was just such a giant figure over top of everything. That this is one of the things that Franklin dealt with when he came in right away was Letterman didn't like him, and not turning on that dime, because it was kind of a slow drip, but understanding that there can be this balance. And I don't want to say there needs to be this balance, because I don't think there needs to be, but it's really helpful, right? It's really helpful to donors. It's really helpful to anybody that's connecting and writing those checks, that you can live the past while navigating the future, if that makes sense. So I think that helps him. Yeah, and like I said, it's about qualifying. It's about, these guys are pretty good coaches in their own right, and I don't want to say it just happened to go to Penn State, because it's another, it's like in-state recruiting, right? Like these guys are
right
over the line, or maybe these guys are on the line, but because they're in state, you take them in your class. Well, these guys are pretty good coaches, and a lot of them learned on the fly as analysts, as whatever position. Deion Barnes was under John Scott, and Dan Connor was under Manny and a couple other coaches. They learned on the fly, and they got a good first sort of crash course in how this works. And all of a sudden, these guys are pretty decent, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thought on it. It's just like you learn these things, and they've brought in guys that have been Penn Staters before that they haven't elevated to the next level. Like I think it's a qualifications thing, and I think these guys got it. And that connection is, when we talked about Kalani Sitake coming to Penn State, or potentially coming to Penn State, we talked about he needed to have connections there. He was coming from Utah. Well, these guys are coming from Iowa. It's not a huge difference. You're still going to have somebody recruit the East Coast, and you're looking at potential fits for that in your sort of heavy hitter recruiting positions, like running backs coach, like in the secondary as well. So like those connections have to be there.
We'll keep monitoring this. Nick, did you have something you were going to add there?
Well, just very briefly, that and this is a conversation that I've had in the university structure outside of just football, but Penn State and State College, it's a unique place that, in terms of attracting talent for anything, demands a certain affinity for this place. And so that guys who went to Penn State, who know it and who like it, and in some cases love it, they get it.
Yeah.
That's a big thing to have, in terms of the retention of that staff, right? They're just, and getting them in the first place. It's just, it's hard. It's hard to find quality people sometimes that are coming from outside the Penn State ecosystem, because if they haven't done it before, if they're just coming sight unseen, which yes, Matt Campbell is, and right, he took that leap of faith to join this community and the football program, and that kind of, look, it speaks for itself, the raise, all that stuff. But like for other people who aren't making that kind of money, and for other people who are more of the foot soldier types, that can be harder to get top talent into this area.
Yeah, which is why we just have to tell them about Antifragile Brewing Company. That'll sell it for them. Now let's move on to a conversation that I think people are going to be highly divided on, which is the transfer portal. Just over 2 weeks until the transfer portal opens, and so we're getting names, lots of names entering the transfer portal. And specifically, I wanted to talk today about quarterback, because Penn State has a young quarterback on the roster in Ethan Grunkmeyer. He'll be a redshirt sophomore next year. He started 6 games this year, played in 8, I believe, total. I think for as excited as Penn State fans are, the whole conversation we had earlier about Terry Smith and what he did with the offense to help out Ethan Grunkmeyer, it is a caveat in his performance. And I don't want to downplay or overstate any of these things. I just think it is a conversation to have. Does Penn State need to go into the portal and get a quarterback? I think definitely Fitz, from a numbers perspective, they are going to need to have another body on the roster, even if you do retain both Jackson Smolik and Ethan Grunkemeyer, to have experienced guys that you feel good about. Penn State has never recruited a quarterback in the portal, and it can be a delicate process. So I'm just going to put these names up here as quarterbacks that have gone into the portal recently. This is a truncated list. It is not all of them. The biggest name, obviously, is Dylan Raiola. Fitz, what do you think of Penn State's thoughts on kicking the tires on a quarterback in the portal? Good idea or dangerous that you might lose the guys you already have?
I think that's a lovely graphic you've got there, but also I don't think that, maybe outside of looking at Brendan Sorsby there from Cincinnati, was a pretty good one. I think you got to focus on the guy that he left behind in Iowa State, right? Rocco Becht is the name that you sort of link up there. He's got 1 season left, so that's going to be your 1 season versus 3 seasons of Grunk type of evaluation, but I don't think that's close to the entire story. You've got a guy that has run your offense. You've got a guy that has been in your program, that has obviously bought into what you've done over the last several years, stuck with him. And number one, he's going to have other opportunities. I don't know. I think returning to Iowa State is probably one of them, but he's going to have other opportunities out there. But it's the trust, it's the buy-in. It would be like, if people have made jokes about Franklin going to Virginia Tech and taking Liam Clifford with him. It'd be something like that. You've got a guy that, has been in the system and can get other people to learn the system, buy in the system, and really win right away. Right. I've stopped looking ahead at schedules because you don't know what some of those other teams are going to look like. I mean, Indiana was a win on the schedule 2 years ago automatically. Now it's not like that. Yeah. That went away pretty quickly. So people looking at this 2026 schedule and saying it's an easy one, I don't necessarily agree with that because you don't know what those other teams are going to look like. You can play the odds, play the percentages and all that stuff, but it's going to be very different right now than it is in August when we take off from that thing. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the opportunity to win right away, but also like if you're looking at how this is going to work from like a human perspective, like Grunkemeyer is being evaluated right now. He's having a good bowl practice. He had a good end to the season. How high can he take you over the next couple of years? I think he's a pretty good quarterback, pretty good quarterback prospect, but I think there's more that plays into here. If you take Rocco Becht, can you take another quarterback that's younger in his development, possibly another guy from Iowa State? How do you fill that entire quarterback room for 2026 and beyond is a good question. And from the Grunkemeyer perspective, if you're going to bring in Rocco Becht, even if they tell you it's going to be an open competition and everybody's going to have their chance and stuff like that, you're smarter than that, right? Like,
how is it an even competition when you're competing with a guy that knows the offense and has been in it for 4 years and you have to learn it from scratch? Also, he started and he's the guy. So I have a hard time seeing that as a realistic possibility to keep both of them. So I guess that then becomes like, are you saying multiple quarterbacks you think might be a realistic thing in this portal?
Yeah, and I think honestly, multiple quarterbacks may have been a realistic thing without Franklin leaving, right? Because you're talking about Smolik potentially moving on, and then you look at what was there with Grunk, and beyond that is plenty of question marks. So I think that you're looking at the potential for just more turnover, and I think that's probably what Penn State fans need to maybe prep themselves for. It's just more turnover than you would naturally expect here. It's not a 1-for-1 thing. It's not a 1 year versus 3 years thing. It's how do you build out that room? And I think that Campbell's going to be loyal to his old guys, his old evaluations, his staff's old guys, all that kind of stuff. I know that he's sort of meshing staffs with Penn State, and you don't know how it's going to work out with Big 12 guys coming to the Big 10 and, taking that step up. But at the same time, he has evaluated those guys. He's been around them at practice. He knows what they can do, or believes that he knows what they can do. So I think that comes into it as well. So, are we looking at a mass exodus from Ames? Probably a lot of their more talented players are going to hit the portal, but you're probably looking at the same thing at Penn State, where you're looking at a lot of guys that are going to test the waters, not necessarily leave, but test the waters. I mean, Grunk is fascinating to me because he's started 6 games, which is more than Bo started. But I will say the allure of what Bo had in terms of, hey, they created this whole separate package for him because they think he's a really good player. Well, that's going to earn him $1.5 million in the portal. Now that you have more tape, it's almost like, well, we can needle that a little bit more, and we wonder what he is, and we wonder what he's going to be. So I'm fascinated by the Grunkemeyer decision, but I don't see a situation, and could be wrong here, I don't see a situation where if you go outside and bring in a veteran guy that he would stick around. I don't think it'd be smart business on his part.
What about J.J. Cole, a guy who enrolled at Iowa State and then transferred? Is that
I don't know.
Even if you're looking for a guy that familiarity that you have?
Yeah, he played in 4 games over 2 years, so I'm not sure that they thought that he could play at that level. And
right.
Coming back around, I know they got good relationship with him and everything like that, but I'm curious to see that. I mean, that's one that I have no idea where it's going to go. I like it. You look at all these names right here. If you throw that graphic back up there, DJ Lagway is fascinating to me, not because he's going to come to Penn State, but because that's a guy that could go somewhere and, maybe goes to LSU and sits for a year and learns and sort of gets his feet under him, which he never got a chance to do at Florida, and develops, because I think he's a really talented guy. I think there's some pretty talented guys on there. And then you look at a guy like Aiden Childs, and how do you say this? Like, good college quarterback. Is he going to be durable enough? But then you're going to have that same conversation with Rocco Beck, right? You're going to have this.
Right.
You need more than one quarterback ready, especially if you're going to run something similar to what Iowa State has run. So that is kind of like the train coming down the tracks here, is how do you stock that position with guys that are ready to play while evaluating what you've got on the roster and understanding that guy's probably not going to be here if you do sort of replenish that group.
Yeah. Either way, if you bring in Rocco Becht, he's going to be here for 1 year, and you got to have a plan for beyond that. Nate, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, isn't the play to pay Grunk and get Becht for a year?
I think that, I mean, in an ideal world, but like in what world does Grunk want to stay around
and not be the starter?
Be a backup when he's started 6 games so far, because everybody needs quarterbacks, right? Everybody, you look around the country.
As soon as the other guy gets hurt.
What's that?
As soon as the other guy gets hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're left out in the cold. What was this the first time we've done this before?
It just like, those are things that you can't, like, it's hard, Nate, and I know what you're saying. Like, it is literally the situation that earned him a starting spot. But like, if you're sitting here in December and you're saying, I have to then take a step back from what I was doing, and you get that taste of starting, it's just I think it's an emotionally harder decision than it is a logically harder decision for a guy who, he'll be a redshirt sophomore. So you would have, even after next year, you have 2 years of eligibility. It's just a long time to wait. And for guys that are competitive, it is a hard thing to swallow once you've already reached a certain point in your career. At least that's, I think, what Fitz and I are kind of the mathematics of the emotional side. So what are you putting here?
No, I was just gonna say, my question is what the numbers look like for him. I don't know what an open market is for Ethan Grunkmeyer. But if Penn State has the ability to be competitive from that numbers perspective, even understanding nobody wants to be the backup. I do think that there could be an appeal. Again, like, the numbers matter a lot.
Oh yeah.
And Penn State is ostensibly working with a $30 million budget for its roster. And, and this is, I'm talking about this without actually knowing what's the percentage for the backup quarterback in the NFL, like the number 2.
Oh, it depends. If you've got a franchise starter, virtually nothing. And then if you have a rookie, you can spend more money on a veteran. So Penn State would be going into the portal to get a veteran quarterback. So you're paying 2 quarterbacks. So it would be less for both if you're going off of an NFL model. So yeah, it would not be.
What's Rocco Beck's market outside of Penn State?
Probably pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a starter
I think
at multiple
higher
schools.
Level starter than, like, I'm looking at Becht as I don't know if he's like Miami. Like, I think Penn State's probably the top, but like Miami and those schools that have done that in the past, like, that makes a lot of sense for a guy that's very experienced and has played some good football. I know he's been hurt, but then I look at Grunk and you're like, he probably get double what he would get at Penn State to go start at Northwestern, right? Like, I think that's what you're looking at here. You're not necessarily looking at Grunk going to an SEC or a high-level Big Ten program and making it work, but there's going to be spots for him because he's a 6-game starter. He's a young guy that's got a couple of years left. I think it'd be a good investment for a lot of places. I just don't think the mindset is there in college football right now where you're content taking backup money. Like, I don't think we're there yet. And there's going to be a market for that one day where, again, you throw Chase Daniel around here all the time. Chase Daniel made millions and millions of dollars in the pros, and because he knew what he was. And that's a hard thing when you've got a finite window of 4 or 5 years. Finite window of 4 or 5 years. That makes sense.
It is in the grand scheme of your life. Absolutely.
Finite's usually one. So, but you've got 4 or 5 years to get that, and then they're out the door, or 7 years if you're some players that are still out somehow.
Lambda here says Dante Moore started at UCLA, then went to Oregon and sat behind Gabriel. He started for 1 year as a true freshman and then used his redshirt year his second year.
Yeah,
Gronk has already used.
That's like the Lagway thing that I was talking about. Like that's more apt than because Gronk can't sit a year and take a red shirt.
He's already used that. He's already used his freshman redshirt year, and so he is older in the conversation, and he doesn't have that sort of like buffer. So I think there's I understand that there is the sitting and waiting and being ready. Somebody said like Dylan Raiola should do that somewhere. It's like he started this. He's junior, right? Like that. It's not all, we can't all just say Dante Moore, like just go, hey, Dante Moore, that worked out really well for him. Like the timeline matters here for all these players as well, because as Fitz just said, this is what I don't think people understand. And I'm going to say this here. There is an incredible amount of pressure on these kids to be stars and to go to the NFL as a junior. That is their goal, starting off of, I'm going to play as a freshman 3 years and bounce. And I understand NIL has changed these things, but the goal is the NFL. The goal is not to be the greatest college quarterback that's ever lived. Some people want to do that on the way to a Hall of Fame career if you are like a crazy, high-aspiring person. But the point is to get to the money, which is in the NFL. Well, you don't have the time to just like hang out.
Yeah, I just want to wedge in. Z-Man says that Gronk has more upside than Beck. And that might be true. But I think in terms of winning right away, there is a value in that as well. There's a value in Penn State can go out and market that they've taken a transfer quarterback, which they'd never done before. And I think it's admirable, but also kind of left you in a situation there at the end of the year where you're, wondering what this quarterback room is going to look like moving forward. So I think that like at their peak, and this is kind of the argument that we always have, right? At his peak, he can definitely have more upside than Rocco Beck. But at the same time, there's a time period in there where you have to win football games. And does Beck give you
and how much more?
How many more wins Beck gets you than Gronk if we're taking that assumption? But I think that there's definitely more value there for Beck than you would give credit to because it's just 1 year. And hey, look, it's going to be interesting because Matt Campbell likes his guys, right? Like he likes the guys that he recruited, likes the guys he's been around. If he didn't like Rocco Beck, he wouldn't have started him for 3 full years, right?
Yeah.
Penn State fans are going to like their guys. They've seen Gronk. They've seen him grow up. They understand that this was a long time decision, and this is the dream and everything like that. So they're going to want their guys. So I think that there's not always going to be some sort of understanding that the new guy is going to be better than the old guy. It might not be, right? But at the same time, it's going to be a tug of war between the two sides, and eventually you're just going to have to deal with it in August, right?
I'm a big fan of Ethan Grunkmeyer, but I think because he's at Iowa State, people are dismissing Rocco Becht as not as good. He's got a good deep ball. He's a quick decision maker. He's athletic. He's not big. Grunk may have a higher ceiling, but how much higher is his ceiling than Rocco Becht's? Who is already closer to that, what he was going to be. Nate, what did you want to say?
I was just going to say we're missing one very, very key component to this, which is does
Beckham
Matt
Kritza?
Campbell? Yes, Beckham. That's terrible.
Sorry.
Does Matt Campbell like Ethan Grunkmeyer? How does he feel about this? And he has spoken on the record with Josh Pate. I believe he did. He may have mentioned Grunk and getting to know him, right? I mean, it was very open-ended, but
they do have a previous relationship as well. He was recruited at Iowa State during his recruitment to Penn State. So there is on whatever level, they're not total strangers.
Yes, I am a little wary of players recruited. Fitz, how many you recruit a lot of players, right? You bring a lot of players in for visits. That I'm not saying that he wasn't somebody that they took seriously or that they did like at one point at Iowa State. I'm just
Well, he also
just asking questions.
No. It's the right question, but
it's
he
fair.
Also understood.
Yeah.
I think he also understood the hierarchy there, and that this kid was a Ohio kid with a Penn State offer to play quarterback versus like an Ohio kid with an Iowa State offer to play a quarterback. There's levels here, so I think that is probably understanding there. And if you look at where he's gotten his quarterbacks from, he has been all over. And I think that one of the special things about Campbell, at least in my conversations with Steve and Charles Power and those guys, is like he knows what he's looking at a quarterback. Like he knows, especially younger, because at Iowa State you had to be ahead of the game. You couldn't just throw an offer on top and hope that it stuck, right? Because you're if you're going to borrow from an old NCAA football game, like your program prestige was not making that decision for you. The reason they had Jet Tamala, who ended up signing with Alabama, on the hook so long is because they evaluated him early. They liked what they saw, and they got in on him and built up a substantial lead. Eventually, they lost that to Alabama because it's Alabama, but they had that substantial lead because of their ability to evaluate that quarterback.
And also, Grunk fits this offense. So some of the things I've noticed characteristically of looking at Case Evans, looking at Rocco Beck, looking at Ethan Grunkmeyer, quick decision makers. They want guys to get the ball out and guys that can throw the vertical passes. So like there is a fit here as well for Ethan Grunkmeyer. And I think Fitz and I are just saying, like, here are the harsh realities of trying to make that work. I don't think they would want to kick Ethan out. It would be more, can you convince everyone that this is the best scenario for them to be on the Penn State football roster in 2026. Let's get to our final conversation of the day, which is the I can't believe that we haven't talked about this almost at all, but the Pinstripe Bowl. Like, we're coming full circle. 2014 to 2025, the Pinstripe Bowl, Penn State football and Clemson coming up in just a little bit. And the Nittany Lions have had some announcements over the last couple of weeks. Zane Durant, Zakee Wheatley, Nick Singleton, and Venga Ioane are not going to be playing in the game. Still some other players that have not made their decisions. And of course, we won't know some of them because transfer portal is a part of this conversation as well, which is something we should have talked about in the last segment. Is it's not just the quarterback, it's also the ingoing and outgoing players on the rest of the roster. But there is just so much going on right now that we need to narrow the focus a little bit to talk about key situations and key players. So those four players are not playing in the game. A couple other guys have accepted invites to the Senior Bowl. Denai Dennis Sutton and Katron Allen have both done that, but they have not made announcements about the Pinstripe Bowl. Now that was as of 9:55 this morning, and we're almost an hour later, so I don't know if that has happened since. But I want to get your sense, guys, on the situation for some of these seniors that haven't made the announcement yet. Is it a coordinated, giving everyone their moment on the social media sun as a thank you and a send-off, or do you think there are guys who are actually mulling the decision of whether they should play or not play in the bowl game, Fitz?
Yeah, I think that there's guys that are still around the program that, I think that have an opportunity to stay with the team a little bit longer, continue to practice, but also understand that maybe a pitch count situation is best for them, right? You've got opportunities for not just younger players to step up, but also for opportunities for you to get a few punches in and then, get out of the game. So I think that there are certainly situations like that. I still think there are more guys that, haven't announced yet that are just not going to flatly not play or not be there. But if you looked at, I think Nate wrote the story. I guess Rich Garcella had the story for Nick Singleton that he's still practicing with the team. He's going to travel to New York. Will he dress? Will he do any of that stuff? I don't know. But Nate, that's your beat. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on your toes there. But, there are some guys that are still around. So you're looking at this as, hey, Penn State's going to miss a bunch of guys. Absolutely. Still announcements to come. Clemson's also down. I think Dabo Swinney said 27 guys yesterday. So, yeah, they're missing 3 defensive line starters, a couple members of the secondary and offensive line. But Penn State's going to have similar holes on to fill as well. So, but that going in, right? This is a lower tier bowl, 2 teams that have had an extremely long season. A lot of that because of expectations, a lot of that because of falling short of those expectations. It's a long time. Losing sucks. So you're going to look at that whole list and be like, yeah, I could see this guy not seeing the benefit of playing in this game.
Nate, what do you think of the situation heading into this game?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm 8 years ago and being asked to have the same feelings that, I mean, even like the Peach Bowl, against Ole Miss, like that feels so quaint now.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, I was having earnest on my end and just vehement on the end of other people who had spent their money to go to that game and felt that they were lied to, right, about what Penn State's participation would be in that game. I mean, it was just a stunning, like, there are opt-outs at Penn State, and they were very upset by that. And I don't, right, but given the circumstances here, I feel like there's less of that. I mean, that's just my read of the room, is that maybe Penn State fans have come around to it a little bit more. You just, look.
It's hard. It's hard to do two things and say, I only care about this team if they make the playoff and nothing else other than a national championship matters, and then be mad when the players go, okay, well, we didn't do that, so now we're not playing in the bowl game, and then fans are also angry about them not playing in the bowl game. I understand, like, there is that aspect of I'm paying to go to see this or I'm supporting this team, but it's never a two-way street. And I don't know why I'm saying this at all, because it's not like it's going to land on anybody and they're going to go, oh, no, my bad. I didn't consider that.
I actually think, just based on our boards of Blue It Illustrated, that people are a lot more understanding this time around. Like,
are they? Okay.
When it's a 4-team playoff and 5 and below, just, everybody opts out, whatever. That's one thing. But, 13 and below, and Penn State's pretty far below that 13, it kind of makes sense, right? Because you've got, the coaching change. You've got just so much just sort of weighing on you. And yeah, I think that there are guys that aren't, I mean, how much is it going to change, like, your fundamental draft stock? If you're Kyron Hudson, if you're Alonzo Ford, like those things, how much is it going to change? Probably not much. The only guy that I could, maybe say that for, that really stood out in that area is Jesse Luketa a couple years ago against Arkansas in the Outback Bowl. Rest in peace, Outback Bowl. You're looking at a guy who, stepped up and did what he had to do, played middle linebacker, and then eventually got drafted. I'm not saying he got drafted because he played in that game, but it showed some of his versatility. It showed some of that. So if you're looking at guys on this list, I don't know that there's anybody sort of in that in-between area that's like, hey.
I guess maybe Nolan Rucci. Like, he's just had less starting experience than the other guys. Yeah, he started a little bit last year. He started this year, but he's in and out of the lineup. 2 years for a tackle. I don't know. Like, I'm just throwing darts at, like, what would make sense in the counter argument.
Yeah, it's even like Katron, right? You're looking at a guy that was it Dane Brugler or something like yesterday said that he might be the number one back taken because of his consistency. That's great. That's before the Outback Bowl. That's before the Pinstripe Bowl, and I don't think it's changing much, especially for a guy that's carried the ball a lot. And he's made it through fairly scot-free. I know we talked about missing some of the offseason time, but from a game-by-game perspective, he's always out there, and that's admirable. But that also means he's taking a lot of hits, so might as well mitigate that risk and just start getting ready for the combine, which is very important for some of these guys. I mean, we saw Zakee Wheatley opt out, and that's going to be a big one because you look at well, first off, actually, I think Clemson's missing their top 3 receivers, maybe the top 4 receivers. So probably going to run the ball a lot, both sides of the ball. But you're looking at Wheatley, who can substantially change his narrative and his draft stock by running well at the combine, which it's not everybody, right?
And you got to train for that. Like, you got to train for that, and that takes time.
Train and get your technique down and things like of that nature. So I think for some of that stuff, it makes sense. But from an entertainment perspective, I think Penn State fans have done a pretty good job of understanding what this is and what this isn't. Yeah. And I think that's commendable. Good job, guys. We made it. We did it.
We got 2 things I want to get to here today. One, I'll end with my rant in a second. But Fitz, this one came in early in the show, and I wanted you to be here because I didn't have a great answer for it. Kevin Payne wanted to know, Merry Christmas all. Has Tracy McSorley shown he can coach? I think that there's a certain amount of buffer between the assistant quarterback coach, the offense coordinator, and the output of the quarterback on the field. But I wanted to get your thought as to early in his coaching career, your assessment of Trace.
Yeah, I don't know, because there's so much that goes on. I mean, if you listen to Penn State fans, they think Danny O'Brien club baby seals and kick puppies and everything like that. I mean, like he's He
Yeah.
probably is a better coach than most people give him credit for. And I just don't know about Trace. I mean, I'm not saying he's good, not saying he's bad. I just don't know. That's going to be more, I don't want to say hearsay, but that's going to be more sourced with people that have been around him that say, oh, this guy can coach, this guy can't. And I'll be honest with you, that has not been at the top of my pecking order in terms of figuring out if he can coach. But if Matt Campbell wants him to stay, which I like looking at Trace McSorley, and people are going to say he's Penn State or all that stuff, but James Franklin brought him here. James Franklin brought him back, and he's attached the hip forever to James Franklin. And for him not to go to Blacksburg, and I believe he had an opportunity to go to Blacksburg, is really interesting to me. That probably means he impressed Matt Campbell at some point along the way. So I think that's a good thing for him.
Okay, so I've got something I want to end the show on here, and I just like this one came in late, so I'm gonna try and do this. Paul Bear Bryant and Joe Paterno would be shocked at how much college football has changed. Yes, because it's been 60 years. Like, you would be surprised at the change in automobiles over that time as well. So like things change, and I understand that we do like tradition and we do like preserving those things, but at a certain point, like you can't. Nothing stays the same. Zero things in life stay that change is inevitable. And this is what I wanted to talk about is, apparently Bob Costas had a rant about this. Eggman, you asked what the rant is. It's going to be about this. The NIL and portal have made college football transactional rather than emotional, killed the spirit. Where's the love? Let me just tell you this. Like, the best NFL teams are teams. The way you win a championship does not change at any level, where you have to have individuals sacrificing for the greater good of the team in order to achieve a common goal. You do not get to opt out of that with talent or whatever. Even the most selfish of teams, when they are on the field, become selfless individuals for the greater good. And now there's variance in that. And I'm sure that there are exceptions to that rule. But you look at the best teams, like historically, that are really good at football. You can say the New England Patriots had no love, but they had sacrifice and selflessness. That was what they had at the core of being great, that and cheating. You look at some of the greatest teams, like Andy Reid and the Chiefs. Like, that is a team that overall has a spirit of collegiality around it, where the players are together and there's development at the best programs in the NFL. The problem in college football is that there is no regulation about the transactions, and there's no regulation about the portal or how all of that works. If you can contain those into a set of rules that everyone can play by, then it becomes all of the other things. Because I would say, like, baseball, right? Baseball is like, you can buy a championship at that point. Like, there's a certain, and even then you can see teams spend a lot of money and not get a good team out of it. And so football has to figure out how to not be baseball, because I don't believe that this sport, which is truly a more complex and less individualistic sport, can survive. And you can't just be good because you spend a lot of money. You still have to develop a team, and however you want to do that in terms of getting buy-in from all the individuals, that's the point here. And so I understand that there's the college side of it and the regionality side of it that, like, fans love. But the reality of what takes to be a great team doesn't change, no matter what level of football you're at. And so just there is this transition period between what it was, which was unpaid labor, and what it is right now, unregulated labor. And there has to be some sort of middle ground. And we haven't found it yet, and I don't know that we're going to anytime soon. But Eggman, I appreciate the frustration. I just want to push back on this whole thing of, like, no football team that gets paid can be like a good team that loves each other and is, the things we love about sports. That doesn't always have to go away. That is a cynical view of our messy reality. So that's my final thought here on the show. Appreciate you guys for being here. Any final thoughts you guys want to get to? Nate, Fitz, anything we talked about?
Some people say that it's the greatest team sport on earth.
It's my point too. That is indeed my point. It's why I love it so much. We'll be back tomorrow. More conversation, more contemplation about the life philosophies and big questions around football and the human experience. We'll also be talking about more commits. Fitz, we didn't even get to your recruiting update today. Thank goodness I haven't made up a new graphic, because there's been too many things going on. And I know if I put Andrew Olish or Breckham Kritz up there, somebody would have to say something about, like, oh, well, they're going to be in the portal soon. So we'll get to that later. We've got a lot of stuff that we have to discuss this week. Of course, we do have a recruiting show on Thursday. One last thing, and I'm sorry I keep dragging this out, but I keep forgetting to do this early. The holidays are coming up. So next week is the week of Christmas. We will have a Tuesday show, and that'll be our only show for the week. Still TBD on the week after for New Year's Eve. So stay tuned this week as we'll make those decisions and let you know on our Thursday and Wednesday and Thursday show. So for Sean Fitz and for Nate Bauer, I'm Thomas Frank Carr. We'll talk to you later.